I have a YouTube channel where I talk about movies because I love movies. And as we all know, the best kind of love is the love that comes with no strings attached. Let's get started. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Hello, homies of both skin and felt alike. Welcome to Thumb Together. And today we are going to be talking about the Happytime Murders together. Here's the thing about comedy. Comedy is very hard to pull off. In all the genres that encompass storytelling, when it comes to the medium of film, comedy seems to have the hardest time finding its footing. It's been a long time since the last comedy came out where I can truly say that that is a comedy gem that will stand the test of time. And I was not expecting Happytime Murders to be that kind of gem at all. And the truth of it is that, yep, Happytime Murders is exactly not that kind of gem. It is one of the least funny comedies I have seen in quite a while. But is it bad? Let's dive deeper. For the uninitiated, the Happytime Murders takes place in a world where puppets and humans coexist for whatever reason, but there is an inherent racism towards puppets who are seen as lesser than humans. And our story picks up in LA, where a private detective named Philip suddenly finds himself wrapped up in a murder case where a bunch of puppets are being killed. And because one of the victims is very close to him, Philip suddenly finds himself being cast as a consultant to the case, working alongside Melissa McCarthy, who is the homicide detective. And the two of them have to piece everything together and figure out who is murdering all these innocent puppets. And that's our story. Phil is, the typical hard-boiled alcoholic private detective who just sits in his office and has femme fatales come in and ask him for help, and then he gets teamed up with a cop and yada yada yada. You can all sort of see where that's going. And I find it difficult right now to really say any more than that, not because of worrying about spoilers or anything like that. No, it's just because the Happytime Murders plot is about as cut and paste as a cop drama plot gets. And I think the key word in that sentence actually was drama. This is, after all, supposed to be a comedy. I mean, you've got some big comedy names in there. You've got Melissa McCarthy and Maya Rudolph. You've got Joel McHale playing a part of an FBI agent, and then you've got all these puppets. I mean, this movie has comedy written all over it. But when I walked out of that theater, A, I had not laughed very much. And B, looking back and reflecting on what I had just seen, I was like, you know what? I didn't really watch a comedy just now. I watched a very bland, typical cop drama that happened to have puppets in it. And I think at the end of the day, that is the best way I can sum up the Happytime Murders. It is a bland, by-the-numbers cop drama with puppets. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, some of the best ways to present a comedy is to present it dead serious as a drama, and that's where the laughs come from. And you'd be right to think that, but in this case, it does not deliver the laughs, not even on that kind of scale. The drama stuff that's happening is drama, and it is very, not even serious, like, oh my god, that's horrible kind of drama, but just like by the numbers, like, we gotta crack this case. The commissioner's on our ass. Now the FBI thinks we did it. We gotta find the killer. Like that kind of drama. Just very bland, typical drama. And then when the comedy comes in, it doesn't mesh well with that drama. It just kind of wedges itself in there, and it's very rambunctious and vulgar, and unfortunately not very clever. You can have really clever, vulgar comedy. I mean, look no further than South Park or Rick and Morty. But the comedy in here never felt like anybody was ever trying to be clever. It just felt like the writers were like, hey, here's a puppet, and the puppet is saying the word penis, and it's saying the word ass. That's funny by itself. The end. We don't have to do any work. And that's what came across here, is they fell into that stupid trap that a lot of these movies fall into, where it's just like, hey, this itself is the joke, right? Poo-poo, penis, that's the joke. And no, that's not acceptable. You can't just make that the joke, because that's not funny. I could just sit here and be like, vagina. That's not funny. You need some context to it, but that's where the Happytime Murders goes for its comedy. They just stick, very R-rated and in some cases X-rated words into the mouths of these adorable felt puppets, and they think that that's enough to justify it being a comedy, and then they wash their hands of the whole thing and walk away and beaming, waiting for you to laugh your ass off at their movie. And of course, what happens is nobody laughs. Now, I did get a good chuckle out of the sex scene that we saw in the trailer, I did get a little bit of a chuckle out of that, but it wasn't because of the sex. And again, that's how they presented it, where it's like, look, these puppets are having sex. Isn't that funny? That's not what made me laugh. What made me laugh was that there are humans in the other room who are reacting to the sex in different ways, particularly the way Maya Rudolph reacts to the sex. To me, that was the funniest part of the movie. And I got a chuckle out of that. And that was clever. That was clever because it was a reaction to this thing that happens to be happening. Granted, I also have to preface this by saying I just find puppets very funny. I do. When I look at puppets and I see them, doing things, interacting with things and walking around, I laugh, I smile. It puts a smile on my face just because of how silly it looks. And there were moments in the Happytime Murders where I did laugh, but not because of something the movie was doing that was funny. I just laughed because of the sight of a puppet doing things. Like there's a moment very early in the movie where Philip goes to his office and Maya Rudolph says, "Oh, you have a client waiting in your office." And he walks in and there's this femme fatale client who also happens to be a puppet. And, she's got these big eyes, but they don't move or blink because she's a puppet. And she's holding like a piece of paper and she's trying to hand it to Philip. But because puppets, they don't have fingers, their hands are just like a piece of felt like this. She's just got this piece of paper just kind of hanging in her hand like this. And she's just like dead serious because she's talking about something that happened to her. And she's like, "I just got this letter in the mail. I want you to find out who sent it to me." That just makes me laugh. I find it really funny to just watch these little toy people, try to act like human beings. There's another moment close to the end that I won't really spoil the details, just in case you really want to see the Happytime Murders, but Melissa McCarthy points at someone in the distance, and that character happens to be a puppet, and she says, "Look, over there, that person is getting away." And you see this puppet holding 2 briefcases running in the distance trying to get away, and they're just like moving the way a puppet would. And I burst out laughing just because of the sight of that. So this movie, for me, because of my fascination with the way puppets move, it ended up being entertaining by accident. Aside from the aforementioned sex scene and the way Maya Rudolph reacted to it, all the joy I derived out of the Happytime Murders was not by any fault of the Happytime Murders. It just happened to be my own joy at seeing puppets move around. It's very unfortunate because, you have these talented people like Melissa McCarthy and Maya Rudolph and all these talented puppeteers who are, legit Jim Henson puppeteers. Like, these guys come from the Henson workshop. These puppets are legit, like, Sesame Street quality puppets. And the people pulling the strings are the same legit puppeteers who would be on shows like Sesame Street, etc. So that level of genuineness, it creates a package, it creates an overall package that you would expect some kind of quality out of. And unfortunately, there really is no quality to Happytime Murders at all. Unless you're like me and you like the sight of felt mouths doing this because it makes you laugh, then you're really not going to derive anything more than just maybe a cheap laugh, and that is it. I have never seen the musical Avenue Q, which is a very similar kind of story, and I hope it's better than this, because that idea, the idea of amazing quality puppets put into a situation where they're not just talking about, the letter G and how many sides a triangle has, that idea has so much potential and so much merit to it that I want to see it explored as many times as possible. And that's why I was very excited all year long for the Happytime Murders. The minute I found out this movie was going to exist, I was excited for it. That was over a year ago now, I think. So even though the negative reviews came out very quickly, and even though the trailer did not impress anybody, there was this stench to it, like right off the bat. All throughout the last few months, I've still been, anxious to see it because I wanted my first impression to be wrong. And I wanted these early critic reviews to be wrong because I love this idea so much. But unfortunately, they weren't wrong. They were bang on. It's not a good movie, guys. And even, small supporting roles from people like Joel McHale and Elizabeth Banks, they don't save it. So Happytime Murders is going to be one of those very rare movies that I don't recommend at all. Like even some movies that I can't stand, I can recommend in some way, shape, or form. Just for some small thing, I don't know. But Happytime Murders, it really just feels like a waste of time. If you're the kind of person like me who was really digging this concept and really hoping to see it pulled off well, then you're just going to sit around for 100 minutes and be disappointed. And I wouldn't want to do that to you. I wouldn't want to do that to you. What this concept needs is somebody holding the pen who understands that, I mean, you look right there at the poster. What does it say? Sex, murder, puppets. The person holding the pen has to understand that you can't just rely on sex, murder, puppets to make your movie funny. You need to look at good comedies, understand what made them work, and apply that to this. There are a lot of facets to great comedy. One that I firmly believe in is that the best comedy comes from reacting to characters' misery. Comedy is derived from misery. Just look no further than, shows like Arrested Development. We laugh at the misery of Michael Bluth on that show. There is no misery to laugh at in the Happytime Murders. The only misery is ours because we're wasting our time when we could be seeing something with some actual merit to it. So once again, a comedy has fallen short of expectations. I don't think there are any other comedies slated to come out this year, in which case I think the best comedy movie of the year has been Game Night. And that's not even really saying a whole lot. Somebody's going to bring the funny soon. We just have to be patient and wait for the right team to come down the pipeline. But that has been the Happytime Murders. That's been Thumb Together. I'm Andrew Fantasia, your host. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. I will see you here next time. Until then, adios.